Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 21st, 2019 Dover Area School District School Board Planning Meeting. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Bankos, can we have the roll, please?
Mrs. Britton? Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux?
Here.
Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Eifert? Mr. Emig?
Here.
Mrs. Herman?
Here.
Mrs. Maley?
Here.
Mr. Rawhauser?
Here.
7 members are present.
Okay, thank you. We will begin the meeting tonight with presentations, and with us is Mr. Stefanovich from Dover Township to give us his monthly report.
Good evening. I hope it's not a report, although I'm not good at those. I brought the list along again for our building permits, things are still quite active. Even in the month of February, we issued 27 building permits, which is almost more than one a day, actually, so that's pretty good. There were 3 apartment complexes started this month, and there were 4 single-family homes started. And I had mentioned last month about solar, and there's more on the list again. So that is becoming a quite common thing for us to see on a monthly basis. One other thing, just to get you to appreciate it a little bit, I brought some simple statistics for our wastewater treatment plant. With all of us here, with all the rain that's happening, just to give you, if you ever see anybody from the plant, you know they work there, shake their hand and pat them on the back, because I tell you, the average flow in January through the plant was 8 million gallons a day. That was average. They did have one day on the 20th that was 18 million. And in February, their average was 7.7. And the high in February was on the 24th, was at 14 million. Now our normal flow is in the 2 to 4 million range, but the plant can handle upwards of 22 million. But the kind of weather we've been having, as you can imagine, our backyards are all that way too. But they do a great job over there. Last month, a question was raised about the Eagle Park project as far as some cost and that goes. So I brought a few statistics along. The grant we got for the stream restoration was 1.5 million. I mentioned that. We also got a grant for the sewer pipe relocation, which runs right through the same area. And that's like phase 1 for us. That's like 2 million. And that we are planning to get done this year. That's the goal anyway, that part of the project would be done this year. The actual park itself, our estimate currently is like $6 million for that, and that's going to occur in a phased approach over time. I think there will be accomplishments, the walking parks, or the walking trails and the places for the education and that, I believe, are planned in 2020. But if somebody asked me about when's the ball field going to be there, I couldn't actually answer that yet. So a lot of the dirt actually that's going to be taken out from the stream restoration to get it back to its normal place will be used to build the ball fields. So they have to, of course, level off the ground. If you know what's back there, it's cantilever down pretty good. Another big thing that happened for us this month, the storm water, which has to do with what we all put into Chesapeake Bay, trying to get it cleaned up. The townships could have opted into the program in the past. You didn't have to get in the program. Dover did because we have so many streams in our township. And of course, you're assessed a charge for this, so the county does that. The county has gone around and talked to all the townships, and they've asked our opinions on a stormwater authority. And I want to get into what an authority is, but it's a separate body of people that has a task to accomplish, and in this case, it would be to handle the stormwater in York County. By doing this, everyone in the county would be assessed for stormwater maintenance, I guess you would call it. So they are proposing that there would be, I don't care how you cut it, a tax for all of us. But at least in this way, we as a township have voiced our opinion that we agree with that concept and not just have a few townships bearing the brunt for everybody. So we think everyone in York County should participate in it. We can't say necessarily we're in favor of an authority because sometimes that conjures up different things with people. I don't know if you're used to authorities or not, but they can be good. So that is something that if you're watching the news, that may be discussed, and some people are calling it the freshwater tax. So that, yeah. So that's another big thing that happened to us last month. And I didn't know if there's any other questions. That was the main things I had.
Do you know when the Dunkin' Donuts is finally going to be done?
I saw the DD up on the building.
Yeah, it says Dunkin' on it, but that's it.
Yeah. No, as far as when's it gonna be done, no. I mean, the glass is in the front yet, I don't think. Last time I came past, the center portion.
There's still a lot to be done, it looks like.
Yeah, I bet it'll happen pretty quick. Before you know it, it'll be there. So, we are planning our open house, I think I did comment, in May. So you will be seeing things in our newsletter and for everybody in Dover as far as welcome to come to the open house.
Any other questions? All right.
That it?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this brings us to our first public comment period. This public comment period is for items on or off the agenda. As a reminder, the maximum period for participation per person will be limited to 3 minutes. And just another reminder, you must fall under one of the following categories in order to provide public comment. You must be a resident of the district, 18 years or older. If it is a student and you're under 18, we're going to ask that a parent be present with you, or you are an employee of the district. When you do come forward, we would ask that you state your name and your address for the record, please. And at this time, is there any public comment?
So, I mean, we're all.
Yeah, excuse
If
me.
you come on up to the microphone, if you could, please.
I'll jump in and rotate out in 3 minutes. We're all here for the
Can
same
you-
subject.
Can you name and address,
Name.
please?
Okay, sure. My name's Karen Muma, and I'm at 2932 Village Square Drive in Dover.
Can you spell your last name
MUMMA,
and address again, please?
2932 Village Square Drive.
Thank you.
Sure. Am I allowed to talk now?
Yep, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So we're all here kind of for the same subject, which is regarding a personnel issue that was made at the high school regarding the varsity cheerleading coach, Lisa Welsh. So I don't know if you guys have any knowledge, how much back history you want me to provide regarding that, but we're just here to support her and ask for reconsideration of the decision, and ultimately, we'd like to have her position reinstated.
And obviously, as you're aware, we obviously cannot discuss personnel issues
Sure.
in public. but-
Absolutely
so.
understand. Our issue with the decision is that 3 parents came forward with information, complaints basically, and that information was reviewed by Human Resources, and a decision was made solely on those 3 complaints. None of the cheerleaders were asked for feedback. None of the cheerleading parents were asked for feedback. And as you can see, within 2 hours, we've pulled these people together to come to this lady's, to speak on this lady's behalf. She's an amazing person. Since she started coaching, last year we won counties, we won districts, we went to states and did really well and had a really successful season this year too. So she's been nothing but an advocate for our daughters. And we have some cheerleaders here that want to talk on her behalf because not only has she been a great coach to them, but she's been a great mentor as well. So we're really, really disappointed in the decision. We're disappointed that no one asked for our feedback and that really no one interviewed the girls to see if these accusations were even true. And according to them, a lot of it was embellished, but there was no research or fact-checking done on behalf of administration before the decision was made. So that's why we're here.
Great, well, thank you. Anyone else? You remember, you state your name and address for the record, please.
Sarah Martinez.
Sarah Martinez?
Yeah. Address is 3211 South Salem Church Road, York. I'm going to follow up a little bit more with what Karen had already instated. I coached with Lisa for 9 years. I coached with her for the past 3 years at Dover. I had been in the rooms with her pretty much almost at every practices, games, and everything like that. I never once was contacted to even ask what my concerns were, if any accusations were true. We'll have a daughter that's coming up to the varsity program that is distraught. Cheerleading has been her life since she was 5, and she doesn't want to cheer anymore. I would like Karen said, a reinstatement. I'm asking if we can have our own meeting with the superintendent, whoever we need to, so we can get our voices heard. I feel like it's very unfair that it goes off of so many people when there's an army that is here behind her and will support for her.
Thank you.
Bobby Joe Johnson, 3112 Kirsten Drive.
What's the drive?
Kirsten, Kirsten. Piggybacking on what they both said as well, I don't think that any of the end results were thought about with these girls. A lot of them have cheered for Lisa since they were 5, 6 years old. Some of them are going into 11th and 12th grade. They're looking at colleges. They now want to quit. They don't want to cheer. If Lisa is not reinstated and she goes to another district, they've even been begging parents to move so that they can follow her. That's not a bad coach. If she was truly a bad coach and these accusations were true, they'd be happy. They would be thrilled that she was done. And it's just not, I mean, my daughter has cheered for her since she was 5. She's 15 now, and not once have we ever had an issue. Is Lisa tough? Absolutely. Does she have to be tough? Absolutely. Are the other Dover coaches tough? Absolutely. And I think we've all witnessed that. And it just feels like she's been singled out. And it feels sometimes like, I know we've all reached out and we haven't gotten anything in return, and it feels like it's just cheerleading. You know, it's not being taken seriously, and it's a sport just like everything else. So just like everyone else, we just feel like we need more information. There needs to be more investigation behind this, and we need another meeting. Like it can't be such a rush to judgment. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
My name's Kayla Lippert with the C. Kayla Lippert with the C. My address is 2947 Solar Drive.
2947 what?
Solar Drive.
And is your parent present?
I'm not her parent, but she's with me. I'm her parent.
We can have her speak. Unfortunately, our policy says that.
It says specifically parent,
Yeah, a
unfortunately.
parent has to be.
Brooke Johnson. 3112 Kirsten Drive.
Okay.
I feel like this isn't really fair to like us, like as a group. Like they only took like 3 people's opinion. They didn't ask for everyone's, like what everyone else is saying. like Lisa's been my coach since I was 5, and like I've never had any issues with her or thought that she treated anyone in a wrong way. She's always been like looking out for us more than treating us badly. And if they can't handle that, like I don't know, like we all seem to be perfectly fine with it. And I just feel like she should have another chance, and that our opinion needs to be heard too, not just theirs. Like, she has been our coach, most of our coaches, for over 10 years, and if there was like an actual problem, I feel like more people would have been speaking out about it. And for those 3 girls, they haven't had her their whole life like we have. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem fair.
Anything else? No? Right, well, thank you.
Lauren Mimo.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Lauren Mimo.
Lauren?
Lauren? Same address?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa has been my coach for 11 years, and
Can you, I'm sorry, can you speak in, yeah, can you pull the mic
Just pull
closer
towards
to you?
There you go.
There you
We
go.
never know they're cheerleaders, right?
Right?
Lisa has been my coach for 11 years, and she's taught me nothing. She's taught me cheerleading, but she's also taught me life lessons that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I became like a stronger person because of her, and I don't think it's fair that just because of 3 people, the rest of us are affected, and we love her. Like, she is an amazing coach to all of us. Like, she's tough, but she wants it because she wants us to be good. And yeah, I'm really disappointed that the decision was made without having all of our inputs first on it. Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, thank you.
Brittany Gladfelder, 7370 Amy Avenue, Dover. Sorry.
What's your address again? I'm sorry.
7370 Amy Avenue.
And are you under 18?
No, I'm 23.
Should make you
That's a
feel good,
compliment
right?
there.
I know, right? 24 next month. Am I ready to start yet, or?
Good.
Okay. So I actually just learned about whatever, all this was happening, actually just a few hours ago. I met Lisa when I was probably 12. She was my coach for 6 years. I did write a little thing about her character, not necessarily how she coaches, but I will say that she is tough. But as a kid going through everything and being led by her, you could see where you started from the beginning of the season and where you ended, and it was an amazing accomplishment. You felt better about yourself. So if I can, I'm just going to read this kind of fast, I guess, because I only have 2 minutes. I have been in cheerleading since I was very young. I had the pleasure of meeting Lisa Welsh towards the end of my Little League career. Lisa became my coach for about 6 years, until I was 18. Before I was led by Lisa, I liked cheerleading, but I was never had an intense passion about it. The first year that I met Lisa and that she led our team, that's when I really realized that I really loved it. From year to year, our team and our organization grew. Just from what, when she started, I was in Tri-Town as it started, and it was just a little league, and from the moment that she stepped on and coached us, it was just amazing. We went from just these little kids to growing up to competing almost, every month during our competition season, and we won a lot. Like I said, it is tough, very tough, but it felt amazing to see ourselves grow. We also learned a lot more beyond just the sport. We learned that in life we need to push forward, that times get very hard and we have to push back and stand really strong. I just remember the one year Lisa lost her mom, and it was right before one of our big competitions of the season. She came to every single practice as she was going through everything, and she even stayed over the weekend with us throughout the competition. And just seeing her made me a better person. I owe her everything for how hard I work. So, sorry, I promised myself I wouldn't cry. She's just an amazing person, and I am proud to call her my coach. And I still consider her my coach, even though it's how many years ago. So, sorry, that's everything.
Hey, thank you.
Kimberly Davis, 205 Gross Avenue.
In Dover?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm basically going to echo everything these mothers have said and these girls have said. Lisa is the best. It's just cheerleading. I know, I'm sure that's going through your minds. It's just cheerleading. Why are all of these people making a big deal out of it? It's more than that. It is a sport. It is competitive. If you want it to be anything else, take the competitive side out of Dover. If you want the girls to compete, you need a tough coach. If it's supposed to be fun and just rah-rah on Friday night sidelines, which it is, then that's all we need. We can have any glorified cheer mom be a coach. And that's what you're gonna get. You need a tough coach if you want a competitive part on it. She's not just a coach. She teaches these girls. She cares about their studies. She cares about each of these girls. These girls can go to her with anything, just like they can their mothers. She's great. She has relationships with some of the parents. You can talk to her about anything. No judgment, nothing. I feel like this is completely unfair. Her voice hasn't been heard. Our voices haven't been heard. My daughter is distraught. She is at the varsity level now, and there's so much that she's going to lose out on. She doesn't want to cheer anymore. She came to Dover because of Lisa. She could have went to York Tech to continue her career. She wants to be a doctor. She would have did better at York Tech for her education. But she wanted to go to Dover, mainly because of Lisa for cheerleading. You guys just took that away from her. And all these other girls. They've lost a mentor, a coach, and for what? 3 girls' opinions? When there's more than 3 girls here right now with the opposite opinion. I know you can't talk about policy and all that and personnel. It's just unfair. We need a meeting. We need something. It's just not right. And I mean, I see the job posting today. It's like, I know you've already made up your minds and we're probably talking and it's not gonna mean anything. But seriously, the job posting says no experience. Would you trust your girls, daughters, even sons out there to do this with no experience as a coach? I don't.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add that we haven't already heard?
Michaela Welsh, 1780 Rocky Road, Dover.
And you're over 18?
What?
Are you
Yeah,
over
I'm
18?
20.
I'm a bad
I'm
judge.
one again.
Again, compliment, right?
Okay, so I am the daughter of the coach, and I am speaking because I have grown up with all of these girls. I've cheered for my mom since I was younger. And to look and watch all these girls grow and develop, they look to my mom as one of their second moms. They come to her for everything, like anything and everything. And the 3 short years that she's been here at Dover, so many good things have happened. All these cheerleaders that have been on the team now, they didn't do the team before because they didn't like the Dover cheer program at all. But now since my mom came, that's when everyone started to come and wanted to do the cheer program. They have the passion for the sport, but they didn't want to do it before because my mom was the passion for the sport, and they wanted to be under her, to learn, to grow, to be able to go to college and cheer. So many girls come to her to ask her to help them for college, help them try to find cheer teams. They come to her for letters, everything. And just taking this all away after 3 parents, that's just not fair because there is a lot of other people here that do support her, other than just 3 parents and only hearing 3 parents' opinions. And that's about it.
Is that everything? Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Jennifer Bartram, 2720 Anita Drive. I really don't have anything extra to add after what everybody else has already said. However, I do have a stack of emails and personally written hand letters from girls and parents and past cheerleaders that Lisa has coached throughout her career that could not be here this evening. I had every intention of bringing these letters in tomorrow and handing them into Human Resources, but at this point, is it best to get handed over to you, or is it best to get handed into Human Resources? Because I want it in the hands of somebody that's actually gonna be able to do something about the situation.
We will be more than happy to take them this evening.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Okay. Other than that, my daughter feels the same way. She's in 8th grade. She's getting ready to go into 9th grade. She has cheered for, I've known Lisa for 14 years. She coached my oldest daughter, is coaching my middle daughter, coached my youngest daughter for a year. It's not Maddie's thing. Cheerleading was not my youngest thing at all, and that's okay. My daughter came home from school absolutely devastated because she was looking forward to her freshman year in high school and those Friday night lights and those games and being that cheerleader, that girl on this dream team. These girls have cheered together since they were 5 and 6 years old. The team that you're gonna put together for your high school this year is gonna be a phenomenal team. And unfortunately, without the proper coaching staff, I don't think a third of them are even gonna come back because none of them want to cheer for anybody other than Lisa. They have 100% trust in her. She has been a confidant to them. She has stood up for them. She has helped them through situations. She's always available, always readily available for any one of them in anything. If they're wrong, she tells them they're wrong. And she helps them figure out how to right whatever it is that's wrong. That's who she is. That's somebody that you want your kids looking up to. That's somebody that you want standing behind your kids, pushing them to be a better person by an example. And that is exactly what she is to them. That's it. Who wants these?
I'll take it.
There are names on all of them as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Candy Martin, 3010 Claremont Road, Dover. Lisa taught my daughter for 13 years. Lisa was more than a coach. My daughter had a lot of personal issues. Lisa got her through. She's the kid she is today because of Lisa. And you know what? There's 3 girls. I hope that mom can make a squad out of 3 girls because you won't find anybody better than Lisa. She gives it her 120% every day for every kid. And I think it's a disgrace that they've done this to her. And you know what? The squad will be nothing without Lisa and without these girls. I just think it's terrible what they're doing to her.
Thank you. I can't speak for the rest of the board, but for myself, I believe I've heard you. I've heard your concerns. And again, I appreciate all of you coming out and especially the students advocating for yourself. So I do appreciate that, and I thank you for doing that.
May I just say that there would be more cheerleaders here, they just have practicing.
I get it.
There would be a lot more
Understand.
Practices are mandatory, so.
Understand. Again, I appreciate it. Like I said, I appreciate you coming out and voicing your concerns and your opinions.
So does that mean you're gonna rethink things, or is it a done deal? Like that's-
Again, we will take what you said, and we will consider everything that was spoken here tonight, and as well as those letters that were handed to us. I'm not gonna say yes or no, obviously, but we will definitely.
So can we schedule a meeting somewhere else to discuss that?
Yes, I think, yes.
Well, no.
Somebody
Are you
emailed,
Amy?
yes, Chris,
Can one of you go to the microphone and speak, please?
Yeah.
my executive assistant is going to get in touch with Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe is one of the ones.
Yes. Yes, yeah, we didn't get, because I just got that email earlier. We're going to set up a meeting, but I'm only meeting with parents of current students who cheer, okay? Okay? Yes, absolutely. No, current parents of students.
What about current coaches?
No, just the parents at this point, just the parents at this point.
What would that put me in?
Are-
I'm a parent and I'm a coach.
Oh, well, you're a parent.
You're a parent, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to make this situation any more of an issue than it already is. I could come as a parent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That works, yeah.
Yep.
Just have her contact me.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, again, I appreciate it, thank you. Anybody else for any other topics under public comment? Seeing no one coming forward, we're going to close our first period and move on to our next thing, our Board President Communications. We did have a real quick executive session this evening before the meeting to consider and discuss some personnel issues. With that said, we'll move on to our policies. And I just lost my thing here. There we go. We're going to turn it over to Mrs. Kroom and look at the policies for board vote at our April 16th meeting.
So as I shared with you on Tuesday evening, a number of policies are going to come for your approval on Tuesday night. So they are posted here and you can take a look at them, and I'm just gonna touch on a couple of them and some of the things that when we talk through, just to kind of highlight some things. This first group of policies are the local board procedures. So 000 is a board policy on new policies, okay? So if you take a look at that. 001 just identifies our name and our class. 003 functions. That is the board president and superintendent will develop an annual plan to evaluate board procedure. 004 is membership, and what's key about membership is it talks about the policies, but it talks about an administrative regulations manual, and that is something we don't currently have, so we will be developing them. And to kind of explain that is the policy is to be a general legal guide. It's the administrative regulations that really guide how we handle things. So we will be working on that. 005, organization. In this policy, Jen will send out by mail, snail mail, the yearly organization meeting in November, and yearly designated newspaper, that as per the Advertising Act, where the meetings go and the bids go. So we didn't know if we could do that by email, but Jen doesn't want to take that chance, so we will be mailing out the reorganization information in the mail to you. So just so you know that. Board operation guidelines for committees. There are some things that we need to do at the committee level, and we will do that at our retreat next year. Just some details we need when we're moving into committee work. 006 talked about meetings and included a voice vote versus an oral roll call. So we clarified that in that policy. 006.1, kind of what we did on Tuesday night, just that attendance at meetings via electronic communications. It just clarified that if you are on vacation and want to attend the meeting, you must be present for the entire meeting. You can dial in by phone and follow the meeting on board docs the way we did on Tuesday night. So that worked out pretty well. 007, policy manual access. In the policy, we said that it is available electronically, online, but it's also available electronically in the administration building. The reason we talk about that is because it used to be a great big policy book, and it is no longer. It is electronic. 008, if you remember, used to be an organizational chart. That is gone. They are not suggesting that we have a policy with organizational chart anymore. We do feel we do need to continue that, so we're going to include that in an AR in another policy. We're just not sure which one yet. And 011, principles for governance and leadership. That is a brand new policy. It's really along the lines of ethical, how a board should act. So all of those policies, the policy committee looked at. This is considered first reading tonight, and they will be up for approval on Tuesday of April's meeting. And don't expect us to bring this many to you at one time in the future. These are pretty easy to do. We did finish the section. Yay, we're excited. So,
I was gonna say, so we have a lot of reading to do. for
yes,
next
you have a
month.
lot of reading to do before next month.
Any-
They're short.
Any questions for Mrs. Groom? Thank you. All right, moving on. Capital Project Steering Committee. Yes, Mr. Deschaux, it's all you.
I think Dave's gonna show us a bunch of pictures and stuff. Or
Okay.
is it- Yeah. And the one thing is that they were doing some talking today, and at the current high school, they're adding the one hallway to make it down by the auxiliary gym and stuff, so.
So the good news is we got a good first part of the weekend this week. Tuesday, they poured 125 yards of concrete on the second floor above the science labs and classrooms. So we have some area in the dry now, so to speak. So we're prepping to pour the first floor next and move forward with that. So go ahead. This is looking towards the science wing. I think the last time I showed you this, we were only up about halfway on this wall. Now it's completely done with the brick on it and everything. Go ahead. This is some progress here. In the background, you'll notice none of that was there the last time we walked through, showed you these pictures. Just a little further shot away here from that. Notice it's still pretty muddy out there. This really dried out Monday, Tuesday. By Wednesday, it looked really good, and today, I'm sure it went back to what it was, so, okay. We're heating the downstairs. So we poured concrete yesterday. We wanted to make sure it didn't freeze and crack, so we're heating it. And this is our LP tank, so I'll show you the jet engines when we get to the next slide or two. This is what they look like. They're about 36 inches diameter and about 7 foot long. There's 2 of them in that room, and you could take your coat off when you're in there on a cold day, and it feels pretty good. So this is what we heated the underside with. We closed both ends in with some plastic and some doors. This is before we actually fired them up. We still had snow inside the building, and the roof wasn't totally done here. So this is looking down the corridor towards the shop area, the CTE area. This is a picture I took because this is an issue that I'm dealing with there. OSHA states you're not allowed to have silica dust, and that is silica dust. So it's been brought to their attention at least a half a dozen times that I know of. So we're going to have a sit-down serious discussion on silica dust next week because that's not allowed. That's not acceptable. This is the next phase. We're on the opposite side of that courtyard, starting walls here. And you'll notice as we progress here, these walls came up really quick this week. This is just another aerial shot of how far that first section came. And you'll notice it's we're starting walls all over the place here again. So this is kind of right out the window. Remember, shot a minute ago, I said you'll see how far these walls came up. Well, this was a day later. This is the opposite side of that same section of rooms. This is classrooms that are on the opposite side of the courtyard. The classrooms directly in front at the bottom of the picture. On the back side of that would be the other courtyard. So we're moving right down the line here. This is just from another angle on that same set of rooms here. So the steel things you see there in the front on the left, kind of about midway, they're lintels that go over top windows. So when you look up, all you see is a flat piece of steel, but all that you see above it is buried in the block. So it's a very strong, very sturdy lintel that they put in. It's not just a concrete cast lintel. I just took this aerial shot from up on the roof the other day, and you'll notice this is before they did a lot of that work in the foreground. They just have the 3 walls up there about 20 feet. Started to work this week again on the mechanical room. It finally got dry enough that we could get out there, so we're starting to do some work on that. And this is just another wall they're working on putting brick up. This is the back wall. We're looking towards Canal Road, and Woods and North Salem properties are to our right here. So they're putting brick on the outside of this wall. And actually in this picture, what they're doing, if you notice that orange thing sticking up in the air, they're grouting the block. So once they put the block down, there's a steel rebar that goes all the way down into the footer. They add steel rebar. They just keep tying it together until they get to the top, and then that core is filled with concrete the whole way down. So this is a solid concrete wall, not a hollow concrete wall. This is when they're installing steel on the second floor. They put the steel down. They weld the steel fast to the trusses. This is directly above. Go ahead. This is directly above the science wing. So I took this picture to show you this. I talked about the rebar that goes all the way down to the ground. Well, here it is sticking up through. So they set the trusses on the wall, and then they run the steel decking up to it. But they don't actually put steel over top the wall. They leave it open, and then they pour that full of concrete when they pour the floor, and then they'll start their wall on top of that concrete again. So this is pretty much, they started to pour. This was Tuesday morning early, about 9:30, and they've got maybe about 2/3 of it or so done. And this is how they put it in. They pump it in with a pump truck. They're getting up to the end here. They only have to go a little bit further there, and then they've got it all in. So now it's all pretty much in. And there's another shot of, you can see how much drier it is now compared to the beginning of the week. So go ahead. Just another shot. Some of the things I look for when I'm there is, and it's kind of hard to see, but I look for little things. And if you notice on that picture, it's hard to see, but the one up front, there's a bolt missing. So it's supposed to be 2 bolts in there. It's actually supposed to be 2 on the other side. There was 1 missing on either side of this one. So I look for the little things. It's not always the big things that come out and get you, but it's the little things. I found 4 structural issues this week. Reported them all to our architect, and they did a corrective action to the contractor. This was not one of them. This one I know they're going to go back and get, but it's just something I noted so that I can kind of keep it up here, and I'll have a picture to go back and look at and say, hey, they didn't put that bolt in. So, any questions?
Okay. No questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Moving on, comprehensive plan. We met this evening at 5 o'clock again over at the
Library.
thank you, at the Dover Elementary School. It's been a long day. We start out the evening with Dr. Maloney just reviewing again our goals and initiatives. As I stated in a previous report, the 3 goals that we are going to be using in this current plan are the 3 goals that were in the plan that is currently in place. And while I'm not going to read the entire goal, basically, goal number 1 deals with instructional practices, making sure that our classrooms are using, I guess, best practices, right, in what they're teaching. Number 2 is the standards-aligned curriculum from K to 12. And then the third one is the shared vision of a positive school climate and family supportive student participation in the learning process. Again, Dr. Maloney talked about how these are our current goals. We have seen some movement within those goals of completing those goals, but obviously we're not there yet. So we felt that, they felt that it was prudent to just continue with those 3 goals. Because if you're looking at our vision, that pretty much supports what we as a district would like to accomplish. So we're going to leave it there and move on. We next went into, talked about the Unity Council that we've been briefed on previously. And we did the bias activity, I think, that they talked about at last meeting. Ms. Parker did that with the board. And I think those intendants kind of had I don't know if it's an eye-opening experience, but it kind of gave you a little bit of an idea of what kind of biases that we all carry with us. Let's see here. And then after that, Mr. Smith, who is a 4th grade teacher at Dover Elementary School, gave us an idea of what his typical class looks like throughout the day. And he teaches, and again, reading and science, I believe it is, right?
Science and social studies. Science and social studies, right?
Science, social, I apologize. All right. I think Mrs. Herman made the comment after the thing that makes her want to unretire with some of the things that were happening in that class. It was an awesome presentation from him. He did a project with us that he does with his students, as well as an online quiz that he does as what he calls a bell ringer at the beginning of the class. And we are not smarter than 4th graders. But again, it was interesting. We need some review on moon phases. And again, like I said, he did a hands-on activity where we had to take a picture and figure out and build a model of our animal or organism and determine what kind of traits would be inherited from parent to youngin. And that we had some interesting projects. Some of us are more talented than others. And then from there, Dr. Maloney reviewed, went over the aspects of the lesson, what were some positive things about the lesson. And then we finished up, at least until we left, about graduation requirements, and Mr. Wasser and several of the teachers from the high school talked about where we are at now at the high school as far as graduation requirements and where we really need to be and to move forward. And they were taking a look at what our students really need when they leave, what skills and that they need when they leave high school. So there are going to be some changes coming to graduation requirements, and I believe, does that board approval? I'm not sure if does that require board approval?
It's in the comprehensive plan, and the
So-
board approves that, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's a separate
Okay.
vote.
So look forward to that. And again, there are some changes with that. I don't. Was there anything else discussed after we left as a board? Okay. So just to wrap up. Any questions, Mrs. Herman, Mrs. Maley? Anything that I may have missed?
The only other thing that was presented, like during the graduation requirements part, was the idea that we're going to be doing a little bit more with our students to get them career and college ready in terms of portfolios and internships or job shadowing, and that those are going to be things that are going to be required for all of our students, hopefully in the future, so that they are more ready.
Any questions from anybody? Okay, thank you. Moving on, Human and Fiscal Resources, Mr. Cook.
Are we skipping facilities?
Oh, facility, I apologize. Facilities and Safe and Supportive Schools, Mr. Aming, Mr. Rawhauser.
I am here tonight.
I'm sorry, I should be here Tuesday, so.
The first item we had talked about was the Dover Borough Council received a request from Dover Baseball to install a 10-by-20 shed on the property at the park, Ketterman Park, for storage of a riding mower and materials for field maintenance. So the committee discussed this, and we felt that we're going to go ahead and let them have the permission to do that so they can go back to the Dover Borough
the borough already said yes, and they just needed the school district to give their consent as well. So the committee said yes. So the next item we had talked about was the transportation contractor update. And we didn't have much information on that. So I have just a couple questions on that. And that is, do we know any more updates on where the cameras are going to go? Are they going with GPS or Zonar, or what's going on with that?
So we're currently reviewing all of these requirements, getting into the details of the response to the RFP. We haven't sat down yet with the preliminary budget. It was been kind of crazy this past couple weeks. We haven't sat down with E&B yet. We're talking with Mr. Pratt to help us as we move through the response to the RFP, write a contract with specific requirements such as the ones that you discussed. I know Brad, E&B provided us access to their GPS system that they're currently using. And I think Brad logged on and looked at it, and he said he could even see the position the bus was sitting in at the time. I think it was a Weigelstown bus, if I'm correct. So we, as a team, haven't gotten to sit down and really say, okay, is this what we need yet? So over the next month, we're going to be looking at all of that, and hopefully by April, we'll have the answers that you need, and we'll have a contract, and we can provide some information in between now and then for that.
One thing I just thought, does that GPS give them how fast they're going?
Yes. Yes.
But it does not know if they're on their cell phone as they're going, does it? Okay.
No.
All right. And then the only other item that Mr. Papa had brought up was, we have towers at all the schools, plus we have up at Skytop, 2 antennas. And he had a recommendation, in fact, he had it checked out. He got a proposal from Tower Services Unlimited out of Harrisburg to remove all those towers because of a safety issue, because they're no longer in use. And the total would be $17,700. So the committee had recommended that this gets put on the board agenda for next month.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Rollhauser, and anything else you want to add?
Yes.
Okay.
We couldn't get no answer because Mr. Nelson wasn't at the meeting. Over the past couple of years, I received complaints about, and they talked about how the intermediate school deteriorated because of improper roofing. And when I was at the FFA luncheon in February, I was sitting there eating, and water started dripping down my head. So I wasn't very impressed. We want to spend close to $7 million to renovate the high school. And my feeling is that we need to do I know we want to replace the roof on the gym. We need to check the roofs to see where where we need patchwork or something, because they said today, when I left, the office said, well, we've received a number of complaints today about water coming in. And I know we had that done in at the old central school to go around and check where they figure moisture was coming in, and I think that's something that needs to be a high priority on our list if we're going to renovate this school and make it last for a number of years, because the roof is where the building starts to fall down.
Yep.
That was my comment.
We have a number of roofing issues or areas that we're going to be replacing. I can't say how much it is, but we have the first proposal in to replace the auxiliary gym, the main gym, several roofing areas around those 2 areas, as well as a spot in the center of the building right now. So we have that proposal, have one proposal back, or one estimate back. And we're going to be doing a lot of work over the current ag shop. And because that's not going to be an ag shop anymore, so all the penetrations that go up through the roof will have to come out. So that will probably, in the scope of work, be a roof that will almost all be replaced, just because we have to take all the penetrations that are going through the roof out. As well as the current wood shop, there won't be as many penetrations there because we won't have a spray booth or or wash down area or any of that kind of stuff. So, but we're going to look at the entire roof as far as what needs to be addressed in our scope of work for moving forward with the renovation project. So it's included in that, it will be included in that renovation. What we're trying to do this year is bite off this summer anyway, is to get those roof over the gyms done and some, I call them ancillary roofs, but there's some roofs all around the gym areas that are different elevations, and they were put on in, near as I can tell, 1986, and they're shot. So they've got to be done, and we know we'd have to do it. So we're going to try to get those big ones done this year. The rest, I think, is going to have to wait till we get some of the penetrations coming through the roof out, and our patchwork will come in and do that all at the same time. But the other thing we're going to try to do this summer is replace the 3 boilers in the basement and take an old chiller out that doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked since the last renovation in 2000. It needed repaired then, and they elected not to repair it. Now it's too late. It's done. So we're going to get that out, and then we're going to put a larger chilled water holding tank in. Current chilled water holding tank won't hold all the chilled water when you shut it off. So every time it shuts down, whether it's satisfied or it's nighttime, we lose about 150 gallons of water. So that's what we're going to try to bite off this summer. That doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot, I'm telling you. So.
Thank you for that update.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Rollhauser?
No?
All right, any questions for Mr. Rollhauser or Ms. Ramey?
Just a question on the permission for the shed. Is there a time frame on that? Is that an urgent request, or can that?
Well,
wait
they need to
until
put a
next-
deposit on the shed, so they needed the approval from both the borough and us.
Do we need to do something before our next meeting? No?
Nope.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Now, Mr. Cook, Human and Fiscal Resources.
Okay, almost had a false start there.
I know,
a few
right?
minutes ago. We looked at some job descriptions similar to what, we're talking board policies and things, but we're also looking at certain job descriptions that, in our meeting, there's several of them that are listed there. There's academic facilitator, school social worker, and the high school assistant principal. And as Mrs. Kroom was sharing with us in committee there, one of the main goals in revising these job descriptions is to get a little bit less work in what's currently being handed off to the guidance counselors into other people's hands, so the guidance counselors can spend more time working on student intervention and that sort of thing. So with the academic facilitator, that will be addressing some of the missing intervention needs of our non-special education students, and that's going to be one of the primary roles with that. The high school assistant principal, again, this will be more of a position leading student intervention, again, working more with the students there. Current position of dean of students really wasn't able to do that, so we're looking at helping out, getting more attention spent with the kids. And then the school social worker, if you recall, on Tuesday night we approved the new position for the administrative position there. This is kind of like the secondary part of the school social worker without the administrative oversight necessarily. So it's really geared more towards the person who's working underneath Kristen in this case. So those 3 job descriptions will be coming up for board approval in April. And then we talked a little bit about the transportation. I think we've kind of addressed that with Terry's report out here. Again, that's hopefully going to be something that we'll be ready to make a final decision on in April. And then we had some discussion on the budget, and from a number of perspectives, Mrs. Benko showed us what the procedure looks like kind of from the very beginning, when the administrators get a chance to weigh in through Skyward and actually get some hands-on creating their budget, both from a revenue standpoint and an expenses standpoint.
The Skyward program, if you've never seen it, gives you the capability to see not only what you're putting in this year, but it gives you a snapshot view for a number of years in the past. So you can kind of really see it all at a glance, and it's worked very well for our principals and athletic director and all the different line items in the budget to be able to actually look down through and see where they can plug their numbers in, and it helps everyone involved to be more efficient and economical in their planning and that sort of thing. So it's a very good tool. It's very interesting to just see that whole thing take place. And the feedback that we got was that it was a very, very positive step forward. So I know Mrs. Benko is very excited about having less paperwork to work with and having to flip through pages. So we talked about that. But then also, Ms. Benko is looking for our input, and tonight would be a good time. So I'd like to engage us to share our thoughts based on the presentation that was made on Tuesday night concerning the upcoming budget, which is being worked on right now. As you recall, there were a few things that were thrown out as possible things that are coming forth in this budget, and I asked Mrs. Benko if maybe she could give us kind of a little bit of a review of some of the items that are a bit new coming down the pike for us to think about, and she's going to do that for us. And then I would ask that we would engage perhaps and get some feedback so she has some direction on where we want to move from here.
Yeah, you can go. Okay. So, if you remember, we put in some preliminary staffing adjustments, both professional and administrative, and we are asking the board to consider allowing us to convert the IS Dean position to an assistant principal's position. Again, that will not be an additional cost in next year's budget, and again, the purpose of that is to help us monitor instruction and do observations. And with all of we just talked about with student interventions, and just we really need it to be an administrative position. It just allows us to do more. Again, we had asked for 4 ILT positions per elementary, currently at about, I think, a stipend of $500 each for the year. Currently, there is no such teacher leadership position at the elementary. We do have something at the IS and the high school, so that would create a team of 4 at each of the elementaries. We are also asking for a stipend for a K-6 English and a K-6 Math department chairs. The purpose for this is to continue the continuity of the curriculum that Dr. Maloney has worked so hard with the teachers on to make sure that the 4 elementaries are aligned and working together. And again, this would be a stipend, but it's someone to keep an eye on that and work with teachers. We also talked about, based on enrollment, we believe we can move 1 teacher from Dover Elementary, that a class is moving from 3rd to 4th grade next year, and we believe that we would like to convert that position to an elementary math coach. Again, that would have no additional cost impact on the budget. And finally, a high school phys ed teacher to be shared with the intermediate school. If you remember last year, an intermediate school phys ed teacher had retired. We did not replace it, but looking to the future, and their enrollment right now is the highest in the district, but looking towards 6th grade coming up, we believe that we need to take half of a phys ed teacher and move them to the intermediate school next year. And again, that would be no additional cost impact. Additionally, you want to just jump to that?
Can we go slide by slide? Like, do we have any questions on
Yeah,
this
about
slide?
those.
Any input?
I do, considering, excuse me, what Mr. Wassler discussed with us at the Comprehensive Planning Committee with adding an additional PE requirement at the high school, taking that high school PE teacher and moving them to a half time at the high school. Is that going to impact the ability to do that if we were to move forward with that?
No, you want to come up? No, we discussed that. Yep.
I feel really tall right now. No, we looked at our credit count. We do scheduling every year. We pull our course request. And as we look through that graduation requirement, we went back and pulled our data. And what we shared tonight with that 2 credits still exists for our current senior class. So for the last 4 years plus, that group has been continually offering those same services. Another part of that conversation was that personal wellness is not limited only to a physical education course. We're going to take the next couple years, because it's the 7th grade class, we're focusing on those grad requirements. We're going to take the next couple years and really look at our elective offerings, because there are more options with personal wellness and our students' needs that will allow us to potentially expand that outward.
Any other questions on that, those adjustments? Okay.
All right. So under curriculum and related services, our ESL population, English as a second language population, is growing every year. Currently, we have 2 ESL teachers, and they split 3 separate buildings. We pretty much are not covering the kids as best as well as we should. So we have budgeted for $60,000 to receive some Lincoln Intermediate Unit support. We don't feel at this time we want to invest in an additional teacher of our own, so we would like to do that with the IU next year and get some more support for the kids and kind of limit the travel time for those teachers. Our science materials, we have a subscription that runs out this year, and so next year we put a new procedure in place for how we do pick new materials, and we want to take the time to really look at it with the iPads, what is the best type of material to purchase, so we budgeted for that as well. Under guidance services, our current, if you remember last year with a retirement, we combined the guidance and the CTE secretaries into one position, and it stayed a 10-month position. We feel pretty strongly that we need to make that guidance secretary a 12-month position. There needs to be someone in that guidance office every day in the summer to work with students and adjust schedules, and the guidance counselors don't work in the summer. They have extra hours, but they aren't in there all summer. So we really would like someone in there 12 months. We also are asking for additional professional time for the guidance counselors. As we were talking about the job descriptions and the additional support we need to give our students who struggle, we need to create some plans to really catch kids earlier when they are struggling. We shared with you our data a couple months ago, and our cohort graduation rate is not as good as we like it to be, and we believe that starts in 8th grade when we can catch the kids early when they're struggling. And so we need them to work this summer to put together a pretty robust plan for how we catch students and what we do with them to intervene. Under social emotional services, we have talked about this. The needs of our students right now are great, and Kirsten does a fabulous job, but we are asking the board to consider allowing us to hire a second social worker. That social worker would be primarily focused on the secondary, and Kirsten would focus on the entire district as well as the elementary. So that is our initial thought on that, and that social worker would also be housed at the high school. And then finally, we have a number of autistic support students in the elementary, and it's time for them to go to the intermediate school, and we do not have an autistic support class at the intermediate school. So we are proposing that we do open a new class there. Our cost is significantly cheaper for us to do than the intermediate school. So we are looking to do that. That would be another teacher. So any question on those?
Do the autistic support kids that move, do they follow the same grade perspectives, or is there a different framework for them to move as a group?
They do, but they will keep, I think if I'm correct, you kept some kids down in 6th grade. Yep, come on up and explain this.
We do try to keep them with their grade level peers as much as possible. However, sometimes our students aren't ready developmentally to move with them, and because of their programming, they may be that significantly discrepant that it makes sense just to keep them kind of like a bonus year in that lower class. So we actually had 2 students this year who are currently in 7th grade, but because of their programming, it made much more sense to keep them an extra year, because if not, we probably would have, first of all, we would have had to send them somewhere else because we didn't have the number of kids to make a new class. This way, we're able to keep them with their peers, keep them in Dover, and then next year they can move as a cohort into the intermediate school. So
Thank
we
you.
do have that flexibility with those programs.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I assume you work with the parents and all of that on.
Oh, yeah, that's actually an IEP decision that we have to do. We have to consider that every year. We talk about what makes sense for the students. Yep.
Do you want Dom to do the technology?
I can do
You want to do that?
So any questions on
The additional.
the additional components here? Okay. Okay, so as far as technology is considered, like I had stated on Tuesday, the majority of these items, well, the equipment anyhow, we were able to plan well enough within the past 2 years to be able to get some new equipment this year with no increase over prior year's budget. So we're including MacBook replacements and full-size iPads for the teachers and students to complete our one-to-one initiative. Microphones to comply with FCC requirements. I know there's some here at the admin and some of the elementaries that need to be replaced because currently they're out of compliance. Servers, so data storage replacement, which was purchased back in 2009, 2010. Its end of life was 2014, and so we need to replace that, and HP will no longer support it anyhow in 21. And then Tuesday, we also talked about the Identikid system replacement. What currently is happening with that system is that scanners and things are starting not to work because we updated to the next version. And Envoy, I think it's Envoy, is coming out with a Apple compatible system. And we can't do it this year because they haven't yet got the offenders list into their system yet, so that's why we have to wait here until next year. So we're trying to piece together scanners and things right now just to get us through to next year. And the Envoy system actually works on an iPad, so you don't have to have any of those extra scanners and things. You can do it right on the iPad. Also, we're requesting a full-time secretarial support for the technology department because, as we had noted on Tuesday, the technicians are starting to really feel the effects of some of the more data entry secretarial duties when it comes to inventory and iPad handouts and assigning courseware to students and things like that. Currently, our structure is that some of the technicians are doing this work. Our assistant technology coordinator is doing a lot of this work. And we have a secretary here in the business office that is split between myself and Mr. Nelson and also technology when it comes to purchasing and things like that. She is beginning to start to get overloaded. There was a secretary there, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, that was not replaced through retirement. And it's putting all of the work back on our techs. And we need our computer techs to be out in the buildings with the devices. And we almost have probably 3,500 devices out there, I would think, in between students and teachers. And that's a lot for 4 technicians. So that's why we're asking for the full-time secretarial support for technology. Any questions there? Safety and security, again, we are asking for another full-time school resource officer so we can make sure we have appropriate safety coverage through our buildings and their presence. And Officer Allen has been wonderful, and we are looking to supplement his services that he gives us with another full-time school resource officer. Also in safety and security, bleeding control stations. And as some of the board members had requested, I spoke with Mr. Nelson about his staffing. We looked at the structure, and we feel that 2 years ago we did not replace retirements for buildings and grounds with two full-time head custodians. We went to the structure of sharing a building. Currently, that structure is not working because of our lack of ability to get some part-time staff here and make sure they stay, coming to work and things like that. So our head custodians are now having to fill in for them and not able to appropriately be effective in their head custodian position in 2 buildings. So we are requesting to fill those retirements this upcoming year. Other items, community outreach, we budgeted for 3 newsletters for next year, and those newsletters will replace, those newsletters and the CCC that Mrs. Kroom does will replace the annual community dinner. We've been having some success with the CCC, and you all got your newsletters. So hopefully as the CCC meetings go on, we get more and more people. I think we went from 5 to 12. And so on. So we think that one-on-one discussion and collaboration with the community is a little bit more effective than an annual business dinner for the community.
Does everybody know what CCC means? Because I see some confused faces. Mark back there.
Community conversation and
Coffee with the
Coffee.
superintendent.
Yeah.
And it's a bet if we ever remember all 3 C's when we're together, but yeah, it takes us all.
So other than that, there's the branding and mission and vision paraphernalia, just to get our buildings up to, similar. Everyone have the same eagle. Everyone have our mission and vision posted in our, in our boardrooms, our buildings. So when you walk into a building, you know why we're here. I know Brad and Dr. Maloney and Brad and I had a great meeting this morning with Jostens, our company that is working on our branding. And really, it's not just picking a new eagle or picking what to say. It's really, who are we as Dover? And it's not just as easy as putting something on paper. We've done surveys and things like that. So we want to make sure that our vision, our mission, and our brand is out there. And when you walk in the building, you know why we are the Eagles.
And it's us. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on that?
I was wondering, is there a handout for this since I wasn't here Tuesday? Do you have any handouts for these?
Yeah, I can post this on the meeting, or if you would like a copy, I can make a copy of it. I didn't print anything.
Okay.
But I can print it for you. Other budgetary component. Oh, do we have any other questions on those things?
I have an overall question, and maybe you're going to get to this later on, but it looks like we're investing a good bit into increasing our programmatic offering as well as staff. And if my figures are correct, which I admit could be wrong, we're north of $500,000 of increased spending. Is that with the new autistic support, the new resource officer, as well as some of the smaller items?
Probably, yes.
And I realize you guys do an awful job, awesome job, I should say, not awful, awesome job of looking at our money. Have you had an opportunity to look at ways to offset those increases, or is this going to be just an increase in our budget?
So not all of these are increases to the budget. I mean, they add monies to the budget, but we took away things.
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
we
So
know that we took away
yes.
things, but we
Horse-traded things.
You've
Yeah.
kind of offset
Correct.
a lot of that. Okay.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what I was-
and we're not, we're not eliminating positions or anything. We're transitioning the way we're doing things, and we're also taking a look at our costs and saying we can do this better.
Okay.
We can do this for cheaper, and how can
Yes.
we do it? And that's what we're doing. I mean, we did challenge the administrators to go back and really look at things, and can we eliminate using so much paper? Can we, what can we do on that side? And again, I didn't print them, especially in color. But those are the kind of things we're going back and looking at, and really taking a deep dive in how can we do things differently. And that's why we're not really recommending any cuts to you. I mean, of course, our budget is increasing when you have salaries and benefits, but all of that technology stuff you saw, there's no cost impact.
Right.
So it's those kind of things, and it's how you plan going into the future that allows for some of this to happen.
Right. And that's where I was getting at. We see the budget increasing,
Yeah.
but what amount of that is
Right.
salary and benefits and
Right.
stuff
Right.
versus.
And when Mrs. Kroom and I put together this presentation, we really think about, okay, what's not just a rollover of prior year's budget? These are the things that we, as we're brainstorming through the entire year, we have a whole notebook, electronic notebook of Tracy's thoughts, my thoughts, you know, when I
She
meet with
writes
every
"don't touch" and I
administrator.
go in and I put notes in there and she sees I have notes and I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
so, you know, as soon as someone says something that can impact the budget, I immediately put it
Right.
on that workbook. And then we go back and we revisit every single line item that we talked about during the year. So, again, these are the additional things that we didn't do before, or, you know, stuff that's not just in the rollover of the budget. Okay?
Thank you.
These are other components. These are, I would say, the almost non-controllables. The salary increases based on, you know, contractual requirements. The one thing we are saving money on and how we're able to do some of this stuff is through the funding holidays because of our good claims experience, as we talked about. We are not giving our employees healthcare premium increases this year. And of course, I provided the information on the PCERS rate increase for the next year, and I still forgot to change that date to 1920. So any questions on those contractual requirements? Okay. And here was the summary of the preliminary budget, and that is 1920 budget deficit right here. So right now we're looking at $1.9 million budget deficit.
So I guess at this point, what Mrs. Benko is looking at from us is, do we have any concerns moving forward with this? Is there anything that jumps off the page at you, at any of us, that, you know, you feel we need to take another look at? Is there anything missing there? Is there, you know, just to provide some feedback so that she knows how to move forward and get us to a position where we're ready to preliminarily approve it and get it finally approved by our May timeline that we're looking for. So, does anybody have any input? That is everybody comfortable with what is up there, or, you know, should we can move forward as is?
I'm not giving an answer because I need to digest that more.
Right.
Sorry, but I'm not going to do that.
Understood.
Right.
I mean, there's some things I disagree with that I saw tonight, so.
Okay. So, for the next meeting, we're, like I explained the other night, you know, we're gonna, these numbers are gonna change. They're gonna move as we look at some of our revenues, and, you know, where the state revenues are looking to come in at. As things might pop up in special ed, or, you know, we look at our estimates for insurance and things like that. So these numbers aren't solid. They're gonna move through the preliminary budget. They're gonna move through the final budget. But we're gonna, we'll be doing, after the approval of the preliminary budget, then we're gonna provide all of the detailed information. Once we get it solidified, we'll provide all the detailed information, the analytic information, and so on.
like to add too, maybe throw my 2 cents in there. Seeing how hard everyone is working, and seeing the collective effort of all of our administrators and our financial team here to try to put our best foot forward as a district is pretty impressive to me. I know nobody wants to see a budget deficit, and in the last, as you recall, in the last 3-4 years, we've been in that position before, where when it comes time to approve a final budget, you know, oftentimes there's been a negative number there, and you have to almost plan ahead for worst case scenario, because we have to approve a budget when the state hasn't even told us what they're going to provide yet. They haven't approved their budget, so you almost have to plan for that, with the hope and the expectation that everybody's going to continue to work hard, and those negative numbers are going to turn into something different or be something less. And that's been the history, that's been the trend of what's been happening. And I'm confident, you know, barring anything really unforeseen, that negative number that's up there will actually be something less, because everybody is working hard to do that. And there are some fund balances that are there to help offset some unforeseen things, to help us there. So when we set out on this process back in the fall, and through surveys, there was quite a bit of very, I'd say, pointed results that put us into really needing some help from a social standpoint. And I would have to say, as a board member, our administrative team has really done a good job in addressing that and trying to strengthen those areas that were shown to be areas of concern. So for one, I'm comfortable with the direction of this budget. I think it's addressed a lot of things that have been pointed out. Obviously, there's more that could be done. It'd be nice to meet everybody's requests and wishes, but I think this is a very nice balance between what's truly needed, what the community has said they really want to see, and what we can fiscally afford. So I would just go on record as you definitely have my support to move forward.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, or anybody else have anything to say with that? No? Mr. Cook, anything else from the committee to report out?
Did I miss anything
No,
that
I think
we
you got
talked
it.
about? Okay, all right.
So any questions on anything that Mr. Cook discussed from his report out? See everybody shaking their hand, we'll move on then. Miscellaneous, any comments or observation from board members?
I assume that the band and all the participants have safely made it to New Orleans?
They have both flights are there, and they are currently enjoying dinner and a little bit of shopping.
Did the equipment fly down with them as well?
It did not. It
They
was
left on
pulled with the
Tuesday.
trailer.
Yeah.
They left Tuesday,
Well, how comes I saw the 2 trailers still sitting here?
because we have 3 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that answered my question.
Yep. Anything else? Anything from any other board members?
Just along with it, and I know it's late, just along with that question with the band trip. I was asked at one point, who is eligible to go on those trips? Is it just marching band? Is it also concert band? If you're not in marching band, is it, you have to be involved in the music program some way, shape, or form to be able to go? Do we know what the requirements are for that?
That would probably be something to ask Mr. Bradshaw or Ms.
Okay.
Roberts.
I think Renaissance is with them as well.
Renaissance
Renaissance
is with them, yes,
correct.
but I didn't, as far as other music people.
In the
I didn't know
past, I
how to
always
answer
just
that.
thought it was marching band and Renaissance.
Yeah, that's what it was for Hawaii.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, observations? None of that. We'll move on to our second comment period. Does anybody have anything for comment? I see nobody. All right, for future meeting announcements, again, Tuesday, April 16th, 2019 will be our board action meeting. Thursday, the April 18th, will be our board committee meetings at 6 p.m. and our board planning meeting will be at 7 p.m. And the comprehensive plan committee will be meeting for our final meeting at 5 o'clock. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We're adjourned.